Hello, this is Donna Hessler Loves Jesus Life Changers Church, and today is September. Happy Sunday, September the 15th, 2019. Joseph is my favorite story in the whole Bible. His amazing story is so inspiring. He was one of God's greatest men that ever lived. And I want to tell you this story. I'm skimming over it, but it starts here in Genesis. This is chapter 37. Right here. Yes, chapter 37, starting in verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children. Behold, he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his other brothers saw that his father loved Joseph more, they hated him. They could not speak peaceably to Joseph. And Joseph dreamed a dream on top of that. Hear, I pray you, this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright. And behold, your sheaves stood round about and paid homage to mine. In other words, they bowed to Joseph's sheaf. And his brethren said, shall you indeed reign over us, or shall you indeed have dominion over us? And they were really mad at him, even more so. And then Joseph had yet another dream, and he told it to his brethren. Behold, I have dreamed another dream. The sun and moon and 11 stars paid homage to me. And he told it to his father and brothers. And his father rebuked him, and said unto him, what is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall your mother and your brothers indeed come and bow down ourselves over to the earth over you for you? And his brethren envied him. But his father observed the saying. He thought about it for a minute. There's something probably to this. Israel, his father knew. And they went, his father sent him out to Shechem, where his brothers were feeding the flock. They had the flocks out feeding. And Joseph came by a certain man as he was searching for his brothers. His father had sent him out there. And the man said that he saw along the way Dothan, that's where they went. And Joseph went after his brethren and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near him, they conspired to kill him, to slay Joseph. And they said one to another, behold, the dreamer cometh. Come, therefore, let us slay him, and cast him into some pit. And we will say, some evil beast hath devoured him. And we shall see what becomes of his dreams then, when he's dead. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. Basically putting him in a holding place so he could sneak him back to his father without them killing him. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. And they sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and behold, a company of Ishmaelites from Gilead with their camels bearing spicery and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said unto his brethren, What profit is it if we slay our brother and conceal his blood? Come, let us sell unto the Ishmaelites, and let us not put our hand upon him, because he is our brother, and he is our flesh. And his brethren were content to sell him. So they sold Joseph as a slave. And when Reuben came back and found that they had done that to his brother, he ripped his clothes. Reuben. And they took the coat that was left behind and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in the blood to conceal what they had done, and brought it back to their father and showed him that Joseph had been killed by a wild animal, and that's all they found was the coat. Such a terrible, heinous lie. So Joseph goes into Egypt, and he's sold as a slave. He goes into the house of Potiphar. Potiphar is one of the Pharaoh's highest men, Potiphar, in the Bible. And he did well at Potiphar's house. He was the captain of the guard. That's what Potiphar was. Potiphar was the captain of the guard. But he had this terrible, rotten wife that was such a tramp and so deceitful. And she took and asked Joseph every day, Will you have sex with me? Will you have sex with me? Will you have sex with me? He said, No, 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 no. And he wouldn't do it. And so finally, she ripped his clothes and lied and said he raped her. And Potiphar had no other choice but to throw him in prison. But at prison, Joseph also prospered. He prospered at Potiphar's, and then he prospered in prison. And when he was in prison, he was given complete authority over the prison, like he'd been given complete authority over Potiphar's house. And the baker and the butler, the wine bearer, Joseph's chief butler, who handed him the wine always. This is what happened. He came in, he was thrown in prison because of theft, and they suspected him of theft. So he was in there, and the dream was, the chief butler told it to Joseph, while Joseph was a prisoner there, and working in the prison. And he said, Behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine there were 3 branches. And it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And the interpretation that Joseph said was, in 3 days you will be restored back to your post, serving Pharaoh as you always have. But the butler had along the same dream, baskets were upon his head, but the birds came and ate them out from over his head, out of his the baskets that were on his head. They were eaten by the birds. And Joseph did the interpretation of that dream as being, in 3 days Pharaoh shall lift up the head of you, and shall hang you on a tree, and the birds shall eat the flesh off your bones. So those were both accurate dreams. And then sometime later, Pharaoh had a terrible dream, that there was 7 horrible starved cows, and then 7 fat cows, healthy cows. and the 7 starving cows ate up the 7 fat cows. And he asked his magicians and all the Satanists of his kingdom, and they could not interpret the dream. But they thought about Joseph because Pharaoh was so troubled. And what did Joseph do? He told him that the dream meant there shall be 7 years of plenty and 7 years of famine. And Joseph, having this accurate dream and an answer for it, to save up the harvest in the plenteous years, saved many people alive, including his brothers and family, people from far and wide, glory to God. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over the land of Egypt. Glory to God. And Pharaoh took his ring from his hand and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in silk and linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. Do you love that story? What a story of redemption, of how the enemy tried him and tried him and tried him and tried him, but God still brought Joseph up supernaturally to the highest man in the land over all the land of Egypt, the country of Egypt. Glory to God. Second only to Pharaoh, a world ruler. That's Joseph. I love that story. I love it. I've always loved it. Glory to God. It's one of my very favorites in all the world. And I wanted to tell you this too. It's like a testimony, sort of, about myself. I have it's like a representation, you know. Like this rose here. You see how it looks so perfect and pretty. Well, I can remember the days when I was a drug dealer's girlfriend and I was sleeping around, and my boyfriend, he would catch me in bed with other men, and I was living a life of Satanism, even though I never really saw a pentagram, or I was still serving the devil unawares that I was doing it. Now today, it's different because they know they're doing it. Things are a little bit different between being deceived and knowing openly what you're doing. But even though I didn't know it, even though I didn't know I was serving Satan openly, I could feel that I was. And if you see how the branches are bent, like if I can bend them like this, when you're in a lifestyle like that, you're bent and you're twisted and you can feel it. I felt pain. You know, I would look into my face every day in the mirror, look at my face in the mirror, and I'd say, you blink, you're nothing but a dirty, rotten blink. I mean, I hated myself. I would cuss myself out in the mirror. And I didn't understand where all that pain was coming from, because I looked perfect, I looked healthy, and yet I had this tremendous pain, such pain. And it's because, why? Satan bends and twists you to pieces. He twists a person. He never created anything and never will, but he takes and twists and ruins your insides. So you need to know that today, glory to God. You remember that. If you want to know why there's pain in your heart, because you're twisted and you're serving the devil like I was then. God bless you. I love you so much. I love you. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.